Hi there, I'm Andrew Lipovsky, and welcome to Highrise's YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into what makes Highrise such a unique and impactful community for growth-minded professionals. If you're here, you're probably wondering, is Highrise the right fit for you? Maybe you're curious about how our members have transformed their careers, or you're considering whether the investment in both time and money is truly worth it. Well, you're in the right place. Today, I'll be speaking with one of our members who's going to share their personal Highrise journey, how they've navigated the challenges, seized the opportunities, and seen real results. Whether you're concerned about the cost, worried about fitting this into your busy schedule, or just unsure of if Highrise can help you reach your goals, you'll hear firsthand how others have tackled these very same questions. So stick around and let's find out if Highrise can help take you to that next level. I want to welcome today Oliver Diamond. Oliver, could you please maybe introduce yourself?
Yeah, Andrew, thanks for having me. My name is Oliver Diamond. I've been with Highrise for a little over 2 years, and I'm based in Salt Lake City. Was based in New York for a long time, and excited to talk to you, Andrew, about the journey here today. I think you reached out to me, Andrew. Yeah, we had a great conversation. It was really right place, right time. I was working at a startup at the time, and just felt like I hit a ceiling of my personal growth, more professional growth. And you reached out, and I was looking for coaching because I have great mentors in my life, but just trying to find someone who could help me, bring me to the next level of my career.
Just for everybody else's sake, how did I reach out? I reached out via cold email. And so my next question is, Oliver, how many cold emails do you typically respond to?
I'm trying to think. I think it was through LinkedIn that you reached out. And correct me if I'm wrong. And it just felt really natural. It felt like you were actually interested in my career. I also gravitated towards that you were an entrepreneur. I'm very much in that world. So yeah, you reached out cold. I was, I think right place, right time. And we had a great connection really about, what is coaching and why would it matter to me in my life? I think professionally, I didn't quite understand what coaching was because I never had it. And so I had mentors, and so I conflated the two. And I think mentors are very much like, here's my experience, listen and potentially apply it to your life. Coaching is much more about, as I've learned through, I think Highrise, is much more about, here's frameworks, let's figure out where you are, how do we help unstuck you or, get you to the level that you want to get in your professional career. So it was definitely enlightening to have someone give a little bit of clarity around the difference between the two, because I was definitely mixing them up.
Got it. And so I'm sure somebody reaches out by LinkedIn or cold email or something else, you're likely pretty skeptical.
Honestly, I think it's the peer-to-peer that I was I don't really is there going to be a benefit here around that? For me, because I was one-on-one with a coach, probably get more leverage. And so I was actually interested in learning why it was framed or why the program was more set up for peer-to-peer. And the cold wasn't so much of a bother to me. I think if someone's getting reached out to help their career, and they want to get coached, or there's enough information that they understand what coaching is, I think someone will actually gravitate towards it. Because you're not selling them on a true hey, buy this thing and it'll live in your home. It's something that is an investment and a bit more emotional. And I think how you approached it, very informative. I think the website also was helpful and informative. I felt that it didn't matter if it was cold or not. I was interested in actually learning about coaching because I was kind of in the middle of okay, I want to coach. How do I even find a coach? And what programs are even out there?
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the peer-to-peer, what were you most skeptical? Like you said that there's maybe like some skepticism about the peer-to-peer. What were you skeptical about? Where I'm sure what we hear like commonly, and maybe this was the same for you, maybe it was different, is like, are these folks going to be my level, or was it something else?
Yeah, I mean, I was interested on who the peers would be. I think it's important. I mean, it's like in the workplace, you want to work with A players, you want to work with people and be around people who are interested in not just things that you're interested in, but also growing as an individual professionally. I would say I was more interested how the time or how impactful it would be if I was actually working with other peers and a coach. And so that to me was kind of like I just didn't quite understand like what the benefit of that versus just having a coach. I actually asked you this question. I was like, okay, how do people traditionally kind of like frame this to an employer? And I have a really good relationship with my founders. We were an early stage startup, weren't, crazy down the funnel for raising rounds. So money was still tight, but I think any good leader, whether you're CEO or manager, and if someone came to you, someone that's reporting to you, and I was like, hey, I want to better my, professional career through professional development, like they should listen. And, hats off to like the two founders of my company. They were really excited that I was doing this. So it wasn't so much like I was asking for money. It was more like, hey, I'm interested. I'm going to spend my time doing this. Are you guys open to investing in this as a company? And so they were excited about that. And, the rate at which it was, I think was affordable. But they also saw that, the benefit of me investing this would help them as a company, help me be a better leader, help me have better frameworks of approaching work.
Got it. So what you're saying is your company helped you cover the tab, but at the time you began sort of like talking with Highrise, you didn't have a formal stipend. It's not like in the company handbook or in Notion or in somewhere it says, hey, everybody gets X amount, but you took the initiative to learn more about Highrise and then get some resources that we provided you with, and also happened to be that your management team was very open to enabling you to do this from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, there was no program in place internally. It was me basically like, hey, I'm interested in this. I'll highlight it was affordable, but it's still an investment from you guys. Are you open to this? Here's kind of like what I see the benefits of it. And they were excited about funding it. There are a couple things. One, I think being a better manager and a better leader. And I think there's a lot of things that were uncovered during my period and my time in the Highrise program that I didn't even know. But I think really being a better manager, better leader, having some frameworks to approach certain scenarios, getting unstuck in those scenarios. One could be like, how do you ask for, how do you position yourself for a raise? How do you, position yourself when there's a hard conversation with the leader that's managing you, right? Some of those baseline pieces that I just wanted to sharpen my tools, and also just get exposure to, I would say, different thinking about how to approach things, versus just me being in my head about how to tackle this. I wanted someone else in my corner, and there were definitely topics that I didn't know how to manage myself. I couldn't just use like ChatGPT to like unlock this. It needed time to kind of unpack and approach it in a way that maybe were bad habits that I was trying to, get rid of.
Got it. So if I were to like piece some of this together, first You were a first-time manager when joining?
First-time manager. Yeah.
Okay. So you needed some help in ensuring that the experience of the folks that you were working with could be a great experience, and that also, maybe a little selfishly, that you get the most out of them, right? From a performance standpoint, right? Because small company, limited resources. And then, the other thing, which I'm, sort of hearing is you reported, everybody's so busy in these like early stage environments, right? That you really didn't have any support from, well, maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but there wasn't a structure for you to lean on within the organization, to help you.
It was very self-guided.
Right, exactly.
I think there's a lot of people out there who work for early stage startups, and it's great because they're ambitious and they're, very self-directed. But you forget how important it is to have individuals who have experience who you can learn from, and or ask them hard questions about hard scenarios. And so when you guys, like, in my case, we were pretty level set in the sense of 10-year experience and management levels, that it was very self-directed because we weren't going to each other to work on some of these harder issues.
Right. Got it. And so coming back to these goals of, hey, being a better manager, compensation, all these different things, maybe like, can you talk through like let's talk through one of them, and maybe talk a little bit about sort of how Highrise was able to sort of enable you to do that, or help enable you rather.
Well, I think the program is strong in the sense that it's very much it's kind of like a curriculum, but what's great about peer-to-peer is that there's a base level that you guys are all kind of working together, and you're all coming in with the same mentality of like, hey, we're excited about growing ourselves professionally. But then we have a coach that I think is really strong to help kind of like be the glue around all this. So there's a lot of frameworks and I guess other people's experiences that we can apply to similar experiences that I was going through that I didn't know how to unstuck. So one of those being asking for a raise in a difficult time, but knowing that there's a lot of value I was providing, and I was, undervalued from from a financial standpoint. And it was actually working with you, Andrew, where we broke down how to ask for not only a higher salary, but also equity, and how you frame that and justify it. And having someone in my corner to unpack that from a logical and like business standpoint, and when I say logical, not emotional, allowed me to come in as more of a like providing value or clarifying the value and clarifying the work that needs to be done, and justifying it with the ask versus I think I need this and like this is what I deserve. And it was very much an unlock, and that I carry continuously on approaching situations like that. Because from a founder's point of view, if an employee comes to you with that, it's more like, how am I helping the business, and why it's worth investing more into me to support the business. They're more likely to kind of give you what you want, or work together on finding a happy ground, or happy medium. So that, just being able to step away from the traditional emotional, I think I'm good, rah, versus here is like, from a value standpoint, how it's being measured, why I'm asking for this, and where we can go with my time here, has changed my perspective completely on how to approach scenarios like this through the work with you guys.
Got it. So we took, in this example, we kind of took like a pretty loaded challenge, which is compensation, right? And we broke it down into using frameworks and information and practice, a bunch of smaller pieces, right? One, how do we approach this? What is the approach that my management team will be most receptive to, right? And that's in the context of the value that you're creating for the business, and to actually be able to go and list all of that out, right, in a compelling way, right? And then the next part is figuring out, okay, based on the value that I'm creating, based on what the market commands, right? And then the third part is, objection handling, what may come up as a result of these, discussions, and how to overcome those objections, because objections are an everyday part of life in any scenario. And then last, and all that is wrapped up in a process to actually practice it and prepare for it. And so when you do it that way, your chances of success are much higher. And at the same time, you're doing this in a way, the overarching frame is what's good for the geese is good for the gander. So what's good for Oliver is good for the company.
I think you touch on something too. Jen, who's one of your coaches, she has a model that's called OCI, and I won't dive too much into it. And you learn you're able to take these models, these frameworks, and apply it to what, Andrew, you're just saying. And I was able to do that, right? And now, I'm actually able to take, because I've felt it and used it and seen the success from it, I'm actually able to then share that with other peers or other people at my work, so that they can then approach scenarios better, right? So it's not only just for me as you, it's important to me because of my career, but it's also important that the people around me are empowered by the actions I take as well.
Sure. And, I think something else that maybe you're touching on is hey, you go and do this, you go through this process, you have a positive result as a part of that process, and it creates this flywheel effect.
There's a couple of reasons. One, I think the strength of coaches in this program is strong, are really strong, and so there is a mutual investment in each other. I've built relationships, and I value those relationships, not just because of what it's doing to my professional career, but how it's growing me as a person. The second piece I would say is anything takes time, and when you're trying to change or grow, so when I say change a habit or grow in the area that you want to grow, it doesn't happen overnight. And so sticking to something after, say, 6 months is really important, because though it's an investment, you're continuing to compound on the work that you've done, and you're continuing to sharpen the work that you've done. And if there's a program that can support that kind of cadence, that's been important to me.
Got it. And something that probably changed along the way, and I maybe think this is the case, maybe it's not, is at a certain point, your company no longer helped support Highrise for you. So the method by which you decided to pay for it changed. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I recently left the startup to start a company, and for me, it was a no-brainer of continuing to invest. And I think for me, it was, like I said before, it was just the compounding kind of results that I was seeing from sticking with it. And I was also going into a world where I still needed guidance. I still needed, like, I'm going into a harder space that's my own company, and I'm having to figure out even harder things than that of working at a startup. So I was like, all right, this is an amazing tool. Why give it up? The juice is worth the squeeze.
Got it. Okay. And, actually I want to pivot a little bit, and I want to talk about your start to your startup journey. And, I think this is sort of an amazing story. Maybe I'll like start with, a question about the community. And so back when we first started discussing this, you said you had questions. What does the peer community look like? Are these people of the same level as me? Can I learn just as much from them as they can learn from me? So on and so forth. And so, I know the answer to this, but tell us a little bit about sort of like how did that end up working out for you? And what was the process by which it happened?
Yeah, it's interesting because it allows you to feel level set. When you go into just a coach, it's like potentially like therapists, like they're not your peer. They're someone that you're like paying for, that's gonna, give you some view on things that are, But when you have other individuals who are in similar parts of their career level or their career phases, it gives you a sense of warmth and relatability. And so that was what I felt through my group. I think I had a very strong group of people who were really interested in similar things, and that's professional development. And I'd also say it helped a lot that we had a good, I would say, captain, a good main coach, head coach, that could really steer the ship and create space for us to get comfortable, to feel like, we could express ourselves, bring in our learnings, be vulnerable. And that was a huge, I think, unlock, a space that was, felt exciting to come to week in, week out. And you also learn from these individuals, right? Like, they share instances that are super relatable. And so that is also something where you're like, this person did this. I'm in a similar boat. How did they do this? How do we unlock this? Or let's take that as an example, and like how do we unpack that to apply something to it, do it better next time? And we weren't afraid to share that. What has inspired from it is, it's hard to stay in touch, I think, with people generally. But one of the members actually has become my partner in the startup. And it wasn't something I planned. It wasn't, and he is on a different spectrum when it comes to how he works, his personality, how he handles scenarios than myself. But what was amazing is that the program Highrise opened up a view into the fact that there are people out there that think differently than you, and we know that. But how to actually work effectively and meet each other where we are and leverage that, because they are thinking differently. They do approach them differently, and so I would say, hats off to Highrise for that introduction, but also the period at which we could grow together and now have a foundation as partners for approaching a lot of the hard questions that people don't know how to answer, or scenarios that people don't know how to answer, and we can do it much easier because we've had this training, we've had this experience together. So it's been from when we were in the program as a group, working as a group, super rewarding to just feel that we were in this together as a group.
Yeah, and I think that's like the best thing that we could sort of ever hope for. So it sounds like you met your co-founder through Highrise, part of the same cohort as you. And maybe if they weren't part of the same cohort, they could have been part of the broader community. But I think the interesting thing that you're getting at is he was able to see how you operate, and you were able to see how he operates before actually choosing to partner up. And now entering this together, you have a built understanding and foundation, and frankly even share the same coach, right? And so there's there are many different ways sort of like founding relationships can work, but at least going into this, actually kind of know him, right? Prior to starting, there's a whole lot of getting to know him that still has to be done, and vice versa. But at least it created an opportunity that may have otherwise not existed.
It's not common, I would say, like, for that to probably happen. But what's common is the ability to understand different types of people and be able to apply that to then your workspace or wherever you work. I think that has been, as a peer-to-peer, working in peer-to-peer, as I think about now, that has been a huge unlock, where there's so many times when before Highrise, I'd be like, God, this person, it's very hard to get through and like communicate and have them understand like what I'm trying to get at, or they're just missing it. And now it's like, oh, here's a lens that you can take. Here's like potentially how they fit in that lens, and this is how you could potentially approach it. And that's just like 2 steps, forward versus where I was before. And it just has unlocked a lot of, I would say, the ability to get things done, work with people better, build better relationships. It would be hard to put like a number to this. I would say it's something that I have committed to myself to invest in because of the results I've seen. And if I see that, if I have committed to myself, if I want to better myself in these areas, this is the tool that I want to use to do that. And for me, it's like, I think like anything, like paying for something matters because you put a value to it and it's something that's coming out of your pocket. But I think if the value outweighs, the spend of it, why wouldn't you invest in it? And I think it's a hard thing to price, because coaching can be, I know coaching programs that are like thousands and thousands of dollars. And like, I don't know if that would be a right fit for me. But I think it's something where it's justified, it's affordable. And I think my ability to see the immediate outcomes, but also have like a place to like buffer out the areas that I just am still trying to figure out is worth that investment for me. It's hard to say like, okay, how do I calculate this? But I think to sum it up, it's just like, it's a good place for me to check in on like how I'm doing in an area that I want to invest in. And so I think that's the unlock of coaching, is like, you need to want to invest in this, or you're not going to find that it's worth it, because it's very self-driven. You're gonna have coaches, you're gonna have peers, but like, there needs to be a commitment from your end to be committed to that. And if you think it's just a transaction and it's something else to just put on your shelf, you're not gonna get what you want out of it. It's a huge time investment, but I've seen it compound, and I've seen the consistency, the reason that I've consistently invested in this, and so I've seen the outcomes of that. So it was a little convoluted answer, but it's a hard thing to say, like, why.
I mean, if I were to I'm probably going to oversimplify it, but if we were to just take some of the raw outcomes, meaning compensation increase, meaning finding co-founder, and look, you still got to be successful, that co-founder, no doubt. But what you're seeing is, hey, there's at least 10x return with the possibility to go to 30x or 50x or 100x based on what Highrise is providing, right? We don't, it's hard to do a really sort of comprehensive ROI calculation, but you're creating opportunities for yourself, and at least a couple of those opportunities are going to have some amount of success, as long as you keep creating them.
Yeah. I would also say you're better set up for those opportunities as well. That's the other thing, is I go into opportunities more clear-minded than I did before, and that to me is worth the investment, because if you're trying to make a hard decision, like you said, okay, or a hard conversation, hey, I need a raise, I need to choose my next career pivot, I need to work with a partner on my business, I need to fire an employee. Those are really hard things to do. But when you have someone in your corner, it makes it easier, because there's perspective. There's work that's been done to prepare yourself to take it as elegantly and strategically as possible. Like I said, I think you have to be excited about the time that you're going to spend doing it. If you can set, hey, I'm going to put 2 to 3 hours a week towards this, and fine. But it's not just the kind of rehearsal of the work, reading the book, writing some notes. It's using it in practice. It's like anything. And if you're excited about using these tools in practice, then that time is compounded. It's something that you'll see so much of a return on how much you're spending on trying to work on these things, that it won't feel like a pain. But if you do come into it hey, this is transactional, and people's time matters, it could be, you might not get what you want out of it. So it's a little bit of hey, this is going to be a minimum of X hours. Great. But you have to be excited about using what you've learned in the places that you are wanting to use it. Talk to a member and ask yourself, in 6 months, am I going to see the results that I want because I was able to invest in it? And if you say, I can't invest in this now, then don't. But if you are I'm actually excited about growing my professional skill set, my abilities to communicate with people, my perspective on how people think, then you're going to get the reward.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all this.